Anna, you asked to bring that up last time. Do you want the, do we need to discuss this now? Or, no, cancel it? Cross off number 3, discussion regarding a finance committee. I was contemplating having 1 or 2 people on council kind of work with finance department. Dave, do you want to do the finance? And would you be interested in kind of being a sounding board for the finance with our town's finance committee?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm happy to do so. I think the genesis of this was really to allow council members who have specific backgrounds in finance, to the extent that we can add value to the finance department. And Amber, you're welcome to come and chime in just to make sure this is not adverse to anything you want to do, because I think that's most critical. But I know obviously there's a lot of different moving parts, and if there's a way to facilitate some of the information flow to council, I know during the course of the last couple of months there's been a lot of individual questions that come back to Amber, and I think maybe if we can help consolidate that as a council, maybe that's an easier way of just having a more regular dialogue going on. So,
any thoughts, Amber?
Yes, sir.
No.
It's definitely a way to streamline all of our communication, to your point, so I think that definitely helps. And there are various topics that would be of help, like as we talk about budget items or investments that I want to get to, or debt. All of those are big topic items, and it would be helpful to kind of workshop on that, and then bring recommendations or just updates on our efforts to all of council. So I think that sounds great, and was hoping that I could get at least 1 to 2 people that have some finance background to be of assistance in that. And also, I would hope that we could have periodic meetings that were scheduled. I was thinking maybe like once a month, but then as projects come up, then we could have, various meetings or conversations or whatever we need to do off of that in order to get all of the efforts done. So I think that would be really helpful for us.
In the beginning, do you think once a month is not enough? Would you prefer, because you got to clear up a lot of past stuff, would you prefer every 2 weeks in the beginning, then maybe go to once a month?
I'm open to whatever is the will of council. I know right now we are behind in catching up with not having staff in place and trying to get audit done. So I do need to focus on the debits and the credits and get things posted and all of that. And then work on strategy, which is definitely where we need to go to make good decisions altogether.
So would it be fair to say that you'll let us know when you're ready to meet? That way we don't have one more thing on your plate and burden you, because I know you worked Saturday. Thank you. I know you're doing a lot to try to clean up, and I don't want this to be a negative thing. I want it to be a positive and we're helping you thing. So what do you think would be the next
I would
step?
like to not push this off. An added benefit, I think, to staff is also getting council's insight and what you want to see, and kind of preparing for you what it is that you're looking for, so we can all make good decisions. And so I would like to get those conversations going so we're all heading in the right direction. And then there are possibly things that we can have being done in the background or whatever to be moving forward. We don't have a lot of time left until budget season starts up again. Yay. And so we really do want to start having more of those high-level strategy conversations on what staff recommends, but also what council envisions for your town and your academy, and start that ball rolling. So
just ask for what you want. Is there a certain day of the week, there's a certain amount of hours? I mean, tell us what you want, your wish list. We're here to help you, and thank you for all your hard work. No one's working harder than you, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if that's true, but thank you. Like I said, I would like to start off with once a month. I don't really have a particular day. I was thinking it would probably be, a couple of hours or maybe even a half day to kind of workshop through topics, and then we can just start building what our agendas are. And then, like I said, I'm very open to having other conversations off of those official meetings.
You should place it when all the Ohio State football games are. I'm kidding. It's a joke.
I'd still attend. I'd just be distracted. But
I'm a dork when it comes to football references.
Saturdays at noon.
For sure, you should be a part of it.
No, I mean, and I think I want to echo, though, Tim, what you're saying, because this really needs to come from you. And what I think what I would want to avoid, and I'm sure what rest of council wants to avoid is yet another council-imposed agenda or time drain for you. So this has to have, some benefit, ROIs, as finance people would say, to this exercise. And so I think if you feel it provides benefit, then I am sure,
I indeed do, and I think in the short term it definitely provides benefit, but we also have to think of long term. What is this going to accomplish? What do we want to see, and what do you want to see from this as far as like a long term, in the future? How is this going to kind of shape up?
So I think one of the important things I think would be obviously is just transparency of what occurs in those meetings.
Right.
And so maybe as a kickoff meeting, that's the opportunity to create an agenda of items that will possibly be addressed, and that would immediately be circulated to council. And I just want to stress that the purpose of this body is not to make decisions. It's not to give direction. It is purely to facilitate and help provide some, call it advice, but everything will come back to council for decision where decisions are required.
Yes, sir.
And I think the other important thing would be that just good minutes. They don't have to be so formalized, I guess, but at least an update is provided about topics that are discussed, and then what sort of additional research or steps taking place because of just things that have arisen. So.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are all things that are top of mind. And also in an effort of transparency and just involvement overall, I would ask for you to consider town manager office participating at some level on these meetings, just so that there is awareness of information, so everything is shared, but also to help implement and to keep things going, because sometimes these almost everything in the finance affects the town or the academy, right? It's a huge umbrella. So it's just a consideration I wanted to put forth.
Of course.
I have a few comments.
Go ahead.
Sam?
I am not against these committees. I think they bring a lot of value. But what I am against is a council member on it. The accountability of these committees the accountability of what we do as a board here lies on each and every council member. Now, if one council member is in this committee, first of all, we had formed some of these committees back in July, and I don't know about the others, but I really did not get any update as to what those committees did. Second, when one council member is the only one you had made this statement, what does the council want to see? If those conversations are happening in that meeting, then yes, I would want to know where is the direction, what is it that the finance department is looking at. A big role of mine as a council member is the budget. It's a big role. Now, if I am, and I'm going to talk for myself because sometimes I feel like there's a block on the other side. It is really important for me to know exactly what's going on. Various times we have reached out to have meetings with you. I know you're very overworked. We were told by the town manager to let you be, which we really appreciate all your hard work for. But I would definitely either have a completely different set of people who are from the community doing this, but one council member will definitely, I wouldn't say direction because that's the word David used, that it will not be providing direction, and I don't see it that, but yes, there will be a kind of movement happening with the conversations that one council member brings, and that would be your personal opinion. That would not be a council direction.
Amber, didn't you ask for
So-
two? You asked for two, not one, right?
I said 1 to 2. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Chandrika, is two okay?
Who would the second one be?
I can do it.
See, that's the whole thing. Everything the mayor cannot do. So
Do you-
I
maybe
would say,
whoever has the
if
biggest finance
I would
background.
want, when it's a finance and budget being an extremely important role of every council member, that every council member is involved in those discussions, because it is our duty and our responsibility to know every item that goes in that budget. It's not easy in 1.5 days to go through that entire thing and figure it out, especially for people who've not been a part of that. So this is where I am.
Can I just make an observation? So I know the budget retreat is 2 days in June, but the reality is between the budget retreat and the production of the budget, it's a 2.5-month process, right?
More.
if we don't have a finance committee, I think the burden of bringing council back together as a collective body is challenging, right? So I don't think you're going to get the interface, like an increase in interface with council, if we leave it to only to a public meeting setting.
My thoughts on this, as I've had various conversations, both with members of council and then also internally with staff, is that I think the goal is to talk about some of the technical pieces, like I wanted to bring forward investments, and I want to talk about how we can better diversify and all of those things. And that could definitely be something that we workshop through, but it's going to continue to add more and more to our agendas. And so that could be a place where we talk through the nitty-gritty and all the technical aspects of it. And then, to your point, for sure, bring forward recommendations that are in writing that would say, this is the path we want to move forward, what say council. And I did do that during the budget session. I made a memo in it. And if that's not enough information, or we need to kind of craft what would be acceptable, for sure want to work with you on that. And to your point about budget, it is a massive thing when you talk about all of the entities that we have that are part of finance and then externally. And I do think it takes a great deal of time to go through line by line and talk about all of those components. And so this would be a better way to kind of shape that into bigger topics that we could then bring forward to council. Of course, I have no intention of keeping anything from you.
But I think,
And I don't think any of us are thinking, sorry, I
No, just wanting to
let you know,
articulate
we're not
what
thinking
was
that we are
discussed.
doing, that you're hiding information.
And
Yeah.
Amber, I feel like you're coming and asking for help, and I appreciate you asking for help. So hopefully there's a way that we can help you, because we do appreciate you, and thank you for working over the weekend.
It's fine. There was just an offer that perhaps this would be more efficient. And when that offer was made, I thought, well, that might be very helpful in the short term and in the long term. And I've seen other practices. I've seen other practices in other towns that have committees for finance, and sometimes they're only particular to investments and debt, and sometimes they're broader.
South-
So
Like
you
that.
said somebody
So-
had made you this offer. Who was that who had made that offer to you?
I'm sorry?
You had said that somebody made that offer to you and you accepted it because you thought it was the...
It was.
I didn't formally accept it. I just thought.
No,
it might
I
please me.
know.
It
Could
was
I know
me.
who had made that offer to you?
I have chatted with Mayor Kilbride. I've talked to Councilmember Quint about it, and I've talked to Dr. White about it. So we've had several conversations. I've talked to Jared and Troy and my own team.
So if I just may step in with a couple thoughts about the Finance Committee. You know, Westlake started as a very small town. Even just 20 years ago, I think we had just a fraction of the people that we have now. And even 20 years ago, we had, I think, only a couple of different neighborhoods in town. And what we found this past year with the new election in May is that a lot of our finance abilities are still small town, and we really need to grow up. And we cannot wait for a new town manager to come in and start doing some of this work. We actually need to start as soon as possible. So the three main things that I see coming out of the Finance Committee is really coming out of leveraging the strengths of this very diverse council here. You know, if we need a medical person, that would be me. If we need a finance person, we've got, you know, David and Kim. We've got real estate with Chandrika, and we've got other issues, a lot of issues with Sean Kilbright. But with the Finance Committee, and I may differ from some other council members on this, I envision this being a short-term entity where over a year or two, we invest in the people, the processes, and the technology in our finance department, and we make the committee obsolete, because we've developed that big town, higher level organization and capabilities. But we are going to have a lot of process changes. And that's why I agree with you, Amber, that the new town manager will need to be part of these conversations, be very transparent, because we'll need that kind of support and engagement to drive these process changes, which is really a big lift for any organization. So, you know, looking at how we budget, looking at how we forecast, looking about how revenues and debt will intersect in coming years with interest rates, investing in people with skills and knowledge on how to do things and setting those policies and procedures in place, and also keeping our technology current. Those are all the three main pillars that I think need to be addressed as soon as possible. in order to allow us to then invest in our future, whether it be roads or the school or the town. So I'm really looking forward to having this committee kick off.
And one final thing I'd like to add, I mean, there's a reason why we're $49 million in debt.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're hemorrhaging blood here. I think it's all hands on deck. Let's figure out what we got, and let's stop the bleeding and get it going right. And so I don't think this is a light issue. This is a humongous issue. The school's a huge issue. The financial state that Westlake surprisingly is in is a huge issue. So I do think it's fair for you to ask for help. Thank you.
So since you've said, Amber, that you need 1 or 2 people, I asked the council, since I really want to understand my budget and want to make sure I understand it completely. David, would it be okay if I am on the committee with you?
Yeah, I don't feel like that's just to me to decide.
Sure,
but I
I'm
would-
asking the entire council then.
But I would also just stress that this would go beyond budget. Budget comes to council. Budget will be presented to council. I think, you know, Amber, from the few conversations you and I had about this, I think there's certain things which we're trying to avoid theoretically going forward. You know, one is to what Tim is saying right now. You know, we have one structural note that makes up a third of our debt. And that structural note was approved last year by council, which rolled up a $5 million note. We all know this, right? And it added another $15 million in principal plus future interest obligations. So it's like 21.8. I think, you know, if we get that in real time in a meeting, sometimes it's hard to break those things down and ask the right questions. The advantage of a committee is it can see it before it's coming, go to council and say, hey, I'm worried about something. Let's take a look at this collectively. I'll give you another example. You know, I know we had a presentation last council by a debt advisor, and I think, you know, there were some surprising issues raised about perhaps, you know, the genesis of that contract, the nature of the contract, some of the advisory services that we were being given by the group. And I think we can avoid some of those public issues, questioning, showdown, by analyzing some of these before they come to council. I know we have another one coming up next session. I think we have another advisor that's potentially presenting next council meeting. Is that right? Valley View for the investment side?
We put a pause on that until
That
we
one's on
discussed
pause?
it further.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It was on
So-
tonight, we paused it.
But again, I think, you know, that can be helpful to have some time to sit down and go through some of these things and then present to council prior to the meetings, just to avoid some of these real-time reactionary
Right,
concerns
right.
that, you know, that
Right,
we've
and,
had to
and that's my
face,
goal
so.
too, is that as we're presenting to you, that we're answering the questions that you want answered, and we're presenting to council and to the public that's participating in all of this, the answers that they need. And so I like the idea of having all of that to deliver and make effective decisions, and give effective information for all of you.
I think Kim and David have the strongest financial background. I wouldn't be right for this. I don't think Anna would be right for this. I'm not sure Chandrika would be right for this. But I think we
I
got
have
to
an
go.
MBA in finance, just so you know.
Okay.
Just so you know.
I didn't know that. Thank you. So I do think it's important for someone for financial background. I've got street smart financial, so I don't think it's Anna or I. It'd be some of y'all.
Just for the record, I would like to do my duties properly. I would like to be a part of this finance committee so that I understand what is happening. 1.5 days or 2 days is not enough for me to do it. This is my, just for the record, I want to say it. Rest, I will, whatever the council decides. I would like to be a part of it.
Okay, so for this item, are we in agreement?
Just work sessions.
It's work session, so it's just David and Kim for this. Is that,
Can we appoint at a work session?
yeah, that's what we did last time.
No.
Right. Say again? It's a discussion.
Okay.
So for next time, we have to do,
Yeah, well,
we've done that before at a work session before, kind of informal taskings within council. It's not a formal vote. What's the deal on that?
So if you're asking me legally, I think you probably can go ahead and set up the committee. But if it's been the norm that you don't take action in work session, you should probably wait.
We've taken action.
We've
at work
taken
session.
action before.
Okay.
Right.
So then I think it's fine.
And this
Yeah.
is just divide and conquer within council.
So you're just identifying, two members of the
Just
council.
to kind of say, hey, you guys just go talk to
Yeah.
Amber and company, and then you sounding board, flesh out things. And so when it gets to council, there's no vote.
Right.
There's no decision.
Right.
There's no
Right.
decisions, but it's helping flesh out issues. So when it gets to council, it's more refined.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'd look at it as more of giving direction than.
Yeah,
than
so
taking
that's what we're
forward.
going to do. So that's what we'll have. And then just CC me on the emails, and then we'll go forth on that. Okay?
So what I'm understanding, it does not mean conquer and whatever the statement you made, because at this point, even though I'm repeatedly saying I want to be a part of this finance committee, I've been shut down. So it seems like it's again a political bloc that's working here, and someone who's asking questions is not allowed to be on it. Fair enough. I'll accept it.
Chandrika, you.
I will accept it.
Chandrika, let's talk about your financial decisions. You voted for this bond.
I
You
am.
didn't ask
I
a
thought the
single
committee was not
question.
making any decisions.
I know, but you voted for that bond in March and didn't ask a single question.
I
be a
thought the
conflict.
committee was not making any
I'm just saying.
decisions.
Sounds like a conflict.
It does. Next, item number 5, discussion regarding school security audit committee. It's a similar format. We've had a civilian advisor that we're setting up. I think it would be good to have 1 or 2 councils sit on and on this email chain, and then that'll help process some little things. We've got interviews coming up and little things that don't need full council, but just rough guidance that'll help clean up things. Tim, would you be interested in doing that?
Yeah, that's my background.
Right. And then Anna, would you be interested in that?
Yeah.
So Tim and Anna will be on that committee, and then just CC me on all that stuff. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely not your person.
Yeah. So I think it'll help flesh issues to council in a quicker format. The committees have no authority other than just to help frame issues and bring things quickly to council, so I don't have to go through and ask a million questions and go to another meeting and another meeting. But when we bring it, we can bring it for a quicker decision. Discussion regarding information technology servers and storage replacement needs. I think we talked about it upstairs for a little bit. Is Jason down here now? Oh, there you go. Yeah, come on up if you want to give a quick overview on this.
Good evening. So it's basically like the agenda memo said, or the workshop memo. We're just running into some supply chain issues and some end-of-life issues on the hardware we have. So we were just trying to get in front of that and make sure we had technology in place before things stop working.
And so you're looking to, just for the audience, for the future, you're looking to upgrade servers that are older, 5 or 6 years old already?
Yes.
And they're looking to be obsoleted, not supported anymore?
Right.
And
They're
so you're
end of life and no longer
and it
not
takes
going to be supported by the
6 to
vendors.
12 months to order these things potentially?
Talking to various vendors, the supply chain issues with processors and availability and things like that, I've been told up to 6 months, if not longer.
And from a bid perspective, I mean, do you feel that you've solicited a sufficient number of bids to understand what the best sort of cost proposal would be for what you're looking for?
Yes, I've talked to 3 different computer companies, vendors that work with those. It's based on DIR pricing, Texas DIR. It's a government contracted rate that's approved for state and local government, and it's usually at a big discount based, compared to suggested retail price.
Okay.
So those are allowed vehicles for us to use to purchase equipment without having to go out to bid.
And is there any way to judge how long down the road this system would be supported by either the vendor or third-party providers?
The quotes I've gotten so far, it's for 5 years of service and support. There's no guarantee after that.
Okay.
We could always renew, and we would have had that option with what we have now, but the products are no longer made or supported. So there's a chance, yes, in 5 years. There's a chance in 3 years they're not going to make these computers anymore. They're not going to make these storage units anymore, but will be supported. It's kind of like vehicles. We'll replace parts and things like that for so long, but eventually you're going to have to get
And
something
what
else.
hurt us was VMware bought out our supplier and that made it go into life a little sooner. Is that what we got?
Right,
Okay.
right, yeah. They kept the IP and got rid of the hardware.
And most of this looks like a a hardware purchase. Obviously, there's a support element to it. It looks like it's covering mainly storage and communications. This is currently on the consent agenda for a vote tonight. Do you think there's a value in considering more of a cloud-based or a hybrid version and to reconsider this at next council meeting? Or do you feel strongly that this is the proposal that you think makes the most sense to move forward with?
The proposal you have would be a hybrid version.
Okay.
Because we currently have a hybrid version. We do have backups in the cloud.
Okay.
And we could run off of those.
Okay.
So we have that. We're going to keep that part in place. This is replacing what's on site.
Okay.
So it would replace our production server, what we refer to as production, what we use day in, day out. And then we have backup servers that are also in our facilities that we can fail over to if needed. And then at any time we could fail over to the cloud from either one of those. Of course, cloud depends on access to the cloud and that needing to be available. I did some quick, during our break before y'all came down, I looked at a couple of options through the big cloud vendors and the government pricing they had available online. I'm sure we could negotiate and get some better pricing, but just kind of back of the napkin figures, was anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 a month.
Okay. And otherwise we'd be amortizing 180 over 60 months is what you're saying.
Right.
That's
Which is
comparison.
3,000.
Right.
Okay.
So
Right.
6 to 12,000 was just the cloud back.
Right, and that depends. We would need access to the cloud. There's several things that I don't know would work being in the cloud for sure.
Okay.
I'll need to evaluate that, but we have several, security systems on site, cameras, door systems, HVAC systems that all talk to things locally, and that's how they're set up. So it's just a routing thing. It's got to get to a different computer, but sometimes there are issues with that.
So is your recommendation for us to approve this contract through the consent agenda, or do you feel there could be a benefit to coming back with additional proposals? And
At this point, I don't think it's a benefit at this point to come back with a
Okay.
cloud
Perfect.
proposal.
Okay.
I don't think it would be better.
I want to make sure, just clarification, this DIR,
Yes.
they go out for multiple bids, they consolidate all the bids.
It's
give
a
them to
department
you.
of the state.
Okay.
Yes, it's a state.
Okay.
It's the Texas Department of Information Resources.
So you're getting
and one of
all
their
the bids
arms
followed.
is to contact all the computer vendors, plus even the technology providers. We're getting contracted rates on services.
Excellent.
So it's and they verify and
You're
you
buying
have
in
to-
bulk, basically. You're using the power of the state.
Right. We're getting
I want to
we're
make sure
getting
everybody's the bid process.
we're getting the same
followed,
price
because we've had
that
those
your
issues.
big cities get. So we
Perfect.
benefit from that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great.
Let's
Thanks.
go on. Discussion regarding furniture item updates from Westlake Academy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason, can you pull that slide up for me, please? So while he's pulling that up, just a quick back history. One of the things we've been looking at over the course of probably the last couple of years is how do we update the furniture in the common spaces as well as in the classrooms. And so last spring, winter months, we met with the head of school, the foundation, the principals, and we looked at, what are some needs or things that need to be replaced. And one of the things that bubbled up was, we could potentially work with the foundation and maybe have some help funding some of these projects, because it would be an all-school if we focused on the common spaces, as well as we looked at, furniture in the classroom. And so our thought process was we would kind of tier this. In other words, this year we would focus on the flexible spaces, the common space, and then next year put another 150 in the budget to start working on replacing classroom furniture, starting with the kindergarten classes and going up, because those are our older buildings on the campus. And so that was kind of our approach. And so, Jason, can you go to the next slide? And so this past year, after those discussions we had with the team, the suggestion was we were going to go out and get some rough estimates on what it would cost to focus on the common spaces, which would include the main commons in the PYP1 building, the mini commons, as well as the common space in the Arts and Science building, and then some common spaces in the secondary building, and then outside areas would include the dining facility of the gym as well as the MYP. So those were the areas that we were focused on. So got the group together, they looked at some different style furniture, they got comfortable, we hired an architect firm to help us with this, and then they went out and got some general estimates on what it would cost. And so it came in at about 140, but yet we still have to go out for bid, and that's what want some direction from the council tonight. Is this something you guys have value for, and should we move forward with the bid process? So Jason, go ahead.
Troy, can you just pause 1 second? I'm just curious, how do the teachers and staff feel about this project at Westlake Academy, and how urgent is it?
And how does Sean Wilson feel, and could he use that $150,000 for a special ed teacher or someone else? Was he involved in this discussion?
He was involved in kind of more the tail end of it because we had started this back in February, March timeframe. And so we did ask the principals, we asked the assistant principals, they were all on the committee. So I'm assuming that they had conversations with the teaching staff, and that's how the request came back to us.
Have you asked Sean point blank what he thinks about this? He's here.
So, yes, there's still conversations about the flexible furniture in the commons, and I believe that it is still an item that is wanted by the teachers because it is, well, it's old, I think almost 20 years old, so it is time for replacement, and I think the flexible models that have been shown were the ones that were spoken about in the springtime as I was arriving here at Westlake Academy. And the idea is to move forward with those items. And I think, if I may, Tim, I think that's a different set of dollars that you and I have had conversations.
Okay. So I mean, it's your school. You feel a need for this?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
anything school related, we want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
So thank you.
Appreciate it.
And just to clarify, Troy, it says here the PYP, but you're talking about the common spaces?
Yeah, the common spaces.
So not PYP.
The common spaces that are within the PYP, so what we call the main commons, like right when you walk in outside outside the library.
Okay.
As well as the mini commons between the two pods where there's a few lockers and restrooms as the building kind of breaks a little bit. So that space there, and the Arts and Science building. So right outside that library area where you have some open space when you walk in. And then
Okay.
a couple areas in the secondary building as well.
And so how many phases, I mean, if this is 150 on the budget and this is something you want to start cycling, how many phases do you think would effectively replace the furniture needs?
Well, if you're looking at all the classrooms on campus, so that's quite a bit. So I would
Okay.
anticipate maybe 3-year cycle to
Okay.
get them all in. And we really were going to focus on the PYP side of the house because those are the older buildings.
Okay.
If you look at the secondary building, most of that furniture is relatively new. Those buildings came on board in 2014. But, something we can look at.
And this was budgeted in the,
The 22-23 budget is
Right,
in the
okay.
major maintenance and replacement, Department 16.
right? Can you just, you mentioned that you're using an architect group, I think it's Bennett.
Bennett Partners, correct.
So can you just talk about, I mean, is that, what would, of the 150, what would they cost? And, how important is it to have an architect firm actually involved with a process like this?
So the importance of having that firm involved, they were, familiar with our buildings. And so to have them involved, they can do sizing and how many people can fit in those rooms, how much furniture can you put in those rooms. So Jason, can you flip to the next slide, please? Next one.
Is that some type of special gift? Other people couldn't figure out how many pieces of furniture go in a room?
No, I wouldn't say it's a special gift, Tim, but it gives us some perspective because they do a lot of this work with other schools, and so they know what type of furniture is the latest and greatest furniture out there.
How did we
And
get
they
these
have-
guys? Did they ever go out to bid?
As professional services, this was a small project. I think they billed us about $4,000 to have those meetings, get the input, and then put these type of drawings
So does that
on
mean
paper.
no?
We did not go out for bid for it. We
Okay,
did not.
that's all I was asking.
So we spent 4,000 so far with them.
Correct.
Okay.
Without going out to bid.
And then would there be an additional cost by them to move forward with this if we approved it?
Yes, there would be. So they would help us put the bid package together
Okay.
to go out to the furniture manufacturers.
Okay, do you have
Installers.
an idea of what they would cost as part of this process?
Until I get direction from the council, I could bring that back.
Okay.
Because we wasn't sure if we wanted to take this a step further or not.
Okay, so the next step would be if you get direction from council is you would get a formal proposal put together, you'd identify the actual furniture needs and actual true costing delivered, and then what Bennett Partners would charge to be a part of that process?
That is correct.
Okay, but would they need would they invoice us to be a part of this next phase?
They may, probably not.
Okay,
Probably not.
okay.
But you're not sure?
I don't think they would based on the relationship we have with them. Now, let me make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking them to complete a bid package so that we can publicly go out to bid for all the furniture. Is that what you're asking?
If that's up to council, yeah. I
That's
mean,
the next step, you're right.
Yes, correct. That's the
Yeah,
next
that's
step.
the next step.
There may be a slight fee with that. I can
Okay.
certainly confirm that before we move forward with it, absolutely, and put that in a report and get back to you guys on the 5th.
Okay, we'll do that then. We'll come back on the 5th.
Well,
but you need direction from us, right?
Hold on.
Correct.
Can we look one more slide ahead?
Go ahead.
Can you talk about the furniture, Troy?
Yeah, go ahead, Jason, go one more slide. So,
Oh, I was
Through-
thinking the next one on the packet is the PYP library module.
yeah, keep
The
going.
primary library? Yeah.
Yep. So after talking to the librarian, and she was part of the committee as well, these are the sample furniture that they provide us that's really they're seeing in schools now. And so the architect provided a variety of different choices, and our team was leaning towards this style of furniture.
Okay. Well, I totally respect that they are experts in the field. I do know that growing up in Texas, I had pure metal slides in San Antonio where the metal got to about 180 degrees. I'm not sure who thought of putting metal slides in San Antonio playgrounds. But as a physician, I really have an issue with these chairs. They're like overgrown thimbles or something.
Right.
And ergonomically, there's a lot of red flags. I would actually prefer the kids have bouncy balls to these chairs.
Certainly.
So I am really against these chairs. I don't know what you all think.
So, Mr. Harding, does your staff, I know this is a lot of what your staff was asking for, do you have any insight on why they kind of went this route?
Is that library?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
We talked about the need for furniture in kindergarten, grade 1, because they're the oldest pieces of furniture. And they just need replacing, plus the main commons. I wasn't directly on the committee. It talked about the mini commons. The mini commons over the arts and science.
Yeah, no, I'm totally for the idea of furniture. It's these chairs that scream neck, back, hip, and posture issues, especially for kids who are short.
But if
which
these
I've
are common spaces here, right?
Correct.
So what's
Right.
the typical day usage? Like, what would be the typical usage case for these?
So, Mr. Harding, how often do they have classes out in the commons and mini commons? They typically use that as flex space, so they
Right.
may have a group of 4 or 5 students out working collaboratively.
Okay.
So they may do that throughout the day, from what I understand.
Isn't this for the library? That's what the slide says. I'm just wondering.
Yes, this particular one's for the
This particular one is
library,
for the
correct.
library. This is not for the commons.
Correct.
Right.
If you go back to the previous slide,
Yeah.
this is what we're looking for.
This is for the commons.
The arts and science common area, and then go back one more, Jason. And then this would be the furniture layout for the large commons you see in the PYP building, certainly. So these recommendations were made through the teacher collaborating with the architect and giving those choices. Dr. White, we can certainly go back and revisit this if that's what the council would like us to do.
Sure.
We've already had the teachers say that this is what they want. I mean, we can always go back and visit it, but they will come back with this, isn't it? If this is what they wanted. Or was this influenced to them by somebody?
No, I mean, we can go back. They gave their recommendations through websites, as part of the committee. So we can go back to them and just confirm, do they have any concerns about back issues and long-term sitting and
My
those type of
concern
things?
is we're on the meter. We're like in the back of a New York City taxi cab. with Mr. Bennett here, and the further we delay, the more costly it's going to be. That's my concern. Is there a way we can freeze this, and since it didn't go out to bid, and say, hey, let's try to figure this out, but we're not going to charge anything more? It sounds like we've done a lot with you, so that would probably be a nice gesture to just freeze and come back with some options that don't cost us more. I'm just concerned that, we're in the back of a cab and we're racking up dollars.
That's a good point.
To bring the committee back together and ask them to confirm the style of furniture would not require the architect to be there.
But Troy, and I'm certainly not an expert on this, and as I look at some of this furniture, I can really tell I'm getting old. But I assume they have expertise around this, that they do this for other schools, that they have studies. I mean, I know when we built Westlake Academy, they did studies on light, and
Yes.
I know talks in temperature and everything. I mean, hopefully that's why we use these guys.
Correct.
They have this expertise along with what the teachers want. That's how we got to where we are.
That is correct.
Yeah, I'm not going to question. I don't know.
I would agree with you too. I have nothing to add in that department. The only thing I would add, again, given that Bennett Partners specializes in architecture and similar fields, is this going to be in keeping with the general look and feel of Westlake Academy? I mean, some of these chairs, I don't want to say the word garish, but
Right.
Color-wise, are they going to?
Yes, that was one of the tasks that we gave them, is to make sure it fits in with our decor at the
Continuity
academy.
process.
Okay.
Yep, as far as color and style and
Perfect.
whatnot. So, yes.
Okay.
I'll get you one of those chairs.
All right.
That's fine.
You good? Okay, so we need to decide direction, right? So
That is
Tim,
correct.
are you happy that they pull together bids, or you feel like this needs to be revisited?
I don't know. I mean,
So,
we got a
Let me-
designer.
Can I recommend something really quick?
Sure.
So what I can go back to Bennett Partners and ask them, what is it going to cost to bring this to a bid package format?
Yes.
And not do anything to this point. And then we can collaborate with the teachers and get feedback on the options that were presented to them. Is this still the path you want to take, considering there may be some concerns from council about back issues or long-term sitting and that type of thing?
And I think that'd be a goodwill gesture. Obviously, Mr. Bennett's done a lot of business with us.
Mm-hmm.
He never went through a formal bid process from the old mayor and council. So I think that would be a nice goodwill gesture so that maybe we can move our relationship forward
Certainly.
since it never went out to bid.
Right.
And Troy, normally they go through the bid process, we get it. Do they get a cut of the furniture for doing that, or how's those contracts done?
They don't.
Okay, so they're
No.
not like a, okay.
So once we receive that bid package, it becomes our
They
project.
get it for you, then we deal
And
with
it all get open, it's a public opening takes place, and it takes here at the town hall. And then we then manage the project after that.
Good. Thank you.
Just due to staff, and trying to get all these bid packages out, they just assist with the formatting of that package.
Yeah, so there's no cost plus or anything that they do?
No, they
Okay.
get no
Got it.
revenues from that.
All right, no more questions? Thanks, Troy.
All right,
Let's go start the
appreciate it.
regular meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, start the regular meeting at 6:09. We started, we're 9 minutes late. Let's start off the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, citizen and parent comments. All right, we have a new format here. The town has a new speaker guidelines which provides an online speaker request form to be submitted from the time the agenda is posted until the start of the meeting. This process should help us streamline public comments and allow residents to submit requests from the comfort of their own home. Yellow forms are still available for those who do not wish to sign up electronically. I just want to let people know that that's an option, and we can thank our town secretary for that.
That's great.
Are there any citizen comments? No, there's not. All right. Item number 10, items of community interest. Come on down.
Hey, Amy, I just want to say again, great job on being able to submit the forms online. That's great.
Thank you, Amy.
It's really,
What have you done with Mr. Sasser? I'm kidding.
It was about time.
I know.
Good evening, everybody. There's a planning and zoning meeting Tuesday, November 15th at 5 p.m. That'll be here at Westlake Town Hall. Westlake Academy will be off for the holiday break all of next week, the 21st through the 25th. The town hall and the municipal court will be closed that Thursday and Friday, the 24th and the 25th. The Westlake tree lighting will be December 1st, and that'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Terrace at Solana. Coffee and Conversation, the next one will be Tuesday, December 6th, from 8 to 9:30 a.m. at Sip Stir Coffee in Westlake. I can speak a little bit more to the Academy items coming up and what's just happened. Athletically, the varsity playoffs will be Saturday against Brownsville. They've had an exceptional season so far. The junior high team ended up as champions in their division, which was awesome. Congratulations to them.
No doubt.
They won in Keene. The volleyball team had 3 All-Stars this year. 2 of them are freshmen, so that's a pretty incredible accomplishment for them. The performing arts just finished their run of Beauty and the Beast and had 4 sellouts, so congratulations to them. It was an awesome performance. I stopped by Saturday. They did an exceptional job. There's some really talented kids at Westlake Academy. Monster Mash, we're a little bit away from it, but that was a huge event, so thank you to the House of Commons. They put on an excellent event. And coming up, we have Grandparents' Day this Friday for the PYP with Mr. Harding, which is going to be excellent for those kids to be able to bring their grandparents in, have a great time, let them see what's going on. But for us, that's just about it.
Oh, Christmas lights, right? December 1st? Did you already say that?
Yes, the Christmas tree lighting is December 1st from 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good shirt.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, consent agenda. There's 3 items on it. Any questions about the consent agenda?
I had one question of clarification about the minutes. I don't know if that had been updated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has been.
Okay. Perfect.
And any questions on the water line?
Yes, I'd like to pull B if possible. And then, do we talk about that first, or do we otherwise move to vote on the remaining?
We can bring it up right now, the water line bridge. Troy?
Sure, Mayor Council. Questions as it relates to the consent item as it relates to the water line extension?
Yeah, so can you just give us a little background? I think the usual questions are, can you walk us through the bid process? What exactly is the name? I mean, I read all of the information you provided to us. I just have questions about what the actual scope of the project is.
Gotcha. So this project is located on Pearson Lane. It is on the west side, the east side of the road. So we have 2 water line dead ends on Pearson. You have a water line that comes up from Dub Road just past Wick Hill, and then it deads in right there. You have a water line that comes down Timber Ridge and then crosses over and feeds Aspen Lane, and it deads in right there. So what we're trying to accomplish with this is several things. One, we want to have a continuous water line so we don't have dead ends, because a lot of times with dead ends you get stagnant water and we have to flush it because we test it very frequently. And so it's kind of to help prevent that as well. The second thing is the 4 residents just to the south of Wick Hill are on Keller Water. They're our last 4 residents to be on Keller Water. So in other words, they receive a Keller Water bill and a Town of Westlake trash bill. And so the only folks left on it are those lots are. So we would accomplish of getting those folks all on one bill, so they're not paying Keller for water and whatnot. This is a pretty tricky water line to create the extension, the connection, because we're going to have to cross over Pearson and go to the east side into Keller city limits, run it to the south to Timber Ridge, and connect it there, which is in Keller. And then it crosses back over, then it goes into the Town of Westlake city limits. So that's roughly kind of the scope. It's about 50 to 100 yards of water line. And then we're going to have to bore under the street to set those meters to those 4 lots so that they now can be on Westlake water. And that will be no cost to the resident. This is also working in conjunction with our sidewalk project that will go out to bid as soon as we get all of our residents on board to allow a 20-foot access easement. And we've got 1 more resident to get on board. We've had conversations with him. So these kind of work hand in hand because we're going to have to move, with that project, we're going to have to move the gas meters that are out by the street, as well as push the water meters back behind the sidewalks. So it's kind of a two-phase project, so to speak. But going back to the water line, so that's kind of the scope. As far as bid processes go, yes, we posted it in the Star Telegram, which is our paper of public notice. So that goes out for 2 consecutive weeks. Then we have a pre-bid conference as well. And then after that, we give them anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to submit a sealed bid. So then those bids come in, and we do a public opening on that specific day. And then we open the bids and kind of see where they all lie.
So just a couple of questions. How many attended the pre-bid conference?
I believe we did, there were 1, 2, 3, if I'm not mistaken. They're not required to, because we did both. So there's about 3.
So is the Star Telegram the only method we use to actually solicit bids for projects like this?
That is our public notification.
It's a requirement, but I mean,
yes.
are there not other vendors that we'd have used historically that you'd go out to and solicit and try to obtain? Because we have one bid for this project,
Right.
And so
Certainly.
does that not cause a little bit of concern?
No, our engineer also has a list of all of the contractors they have worked with in the
Correct.
past, and so they will also push out to contractors they have worked with.
But none of
in the
them
past.
responded with a bid?
That is correct.
Okay.
2022, there isn't an online marketplace for something like this?
And they do, there is a bid market that,
Do we post on that?
it automatically goes out to those
How?
through the engineer. It gets
Are we
placed
sure?
in, yes, we do get solicitation from those.
Because
bid
they'll
boards.
usually, how we know is because they'll email us and want to know what our bid submittals were after the opening.
Okay, can I just ask though? So we have a bid proposal for 86,000 plus a 10,000 contingency.
Right.
And this is what I was understanding from reading through the documentation. What we're achieving is we're tying off 2 dead ends with a potential stagnant water issue.
Correct.
And we're bringing 4 houses onto Westlake Water.
Correct.
I mean, is there an economic case for this, or are you saying this is an absolute requirement? Because, I mean, even collecting water from rates from 4 additional houses really isn't, I mean, that's not the motivation here, so.
Right, and so, you know, when we have to flush lines, we're putting a lot of water. We may have to flush for 30 minutes, we may have to flush for an hour, just depending what our samples are telling us to do. And so it's not a requirement. It's best practices to have a continuous loop so that you don't have to do those
But if we just did the
things.
loop and not the extension, is there a difference in price?
I don't think we could
When you
adjust
say
the loop.
adjust a loop,
Yeah,
what do you mean?
Really? But
Remove
just,
the dead ends.
yeah.
Well, that's
tied-
what we're doing, is removing a dead end.
No, but doing it without going under the road and all. I think that's, you mean David, right?
No, it's the only route to eliminate. the
Was this
dead end.
problem created because of the new development?
No, was not. Jared, when we extend those lines, I mean, they've been there for a while.
So that dead end there on Pearson was created it was created in 2003 as a result of a settlement agreement with the city of Keller for the bifurcation of the city of Keller system within the town of Westlake.
And if there's a development, say, on the east side of Pearson the west side of Pearson and Dove, would they be able to easily tap into this line?
They would be able to tap into the existing line that's there today.
Yeah,
Would
there's
it
a-
not be more financially feasible for when that development on the west side of Pearson to make that part of their financial burden instead of the taxpayers?
I don't
We
know if we
cannot
can.
require off-system improvements like that.
What can we do? What's the creative thing we can do?
We have no impact fees, so we
Yeah.
can't require impact fees. There's really no
Could we,
participation requirement.
could we adopt impact fees?
No, sir.
Why not?
It would take at least 5 years for us to adopt impact fees. There's been an engineering study. You have to show the state all the requirements that would go into the impact fees.
I just look at, there's someone that's trying to develop that land into 17 residential lots. He's going to need water. Why isn't that his problem?
He has water on two sides of him, so this issue is not his problem. It's offsite.
That's what I'm, Tim, I think,
That's where I got confused when we started boring underneath.
Tim, this is
it.
only about the 4 houses. This is what I keep
Okay,
coming back
but
to.
we're boring underneath the road to the west side, that's why I thought
Because
that there was an opportunity.
Because the area of development on the west side that you're referring to is a little bit further north than where that dead end is currently at today.
Okay.
So we're going to bore to the.
Because
to the
it's
south.
my understanding that Pearson property butted up against Keller. So I figured if we're going underneath Pearson on the west side, that would for sure have something to do with that parcel property.
Yeah, so the newest lot just past Wick Hill, that lot is on Westlake Water. So that line stops right there.
Okay.
And so it's just past the property of potential.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying
No,
to
no,
think of
no.
a creative way for someone other
Certainly.
than our town to pay for this.
No,
That's
definitely.
all.
What's it
Definitely appreciate
costing
that.
us to flush these pipes, and how often are we doing it?
We, like I said, it's based on test results because we do random testing throughout the community on a weekly basis. And so we have our water loss study that we do, but we look at that collectively. We don't isolate just one particular fire hydrant. And so it's done collectively. And I'd have to go back and look and see what that is.
Is this also part of as a sweetener for the sidewalk easement? Is that what this is?
It works in conjunction because where those meters going to, right now, some of the Keller meters that are there today are in our way to put that 8-foot sidewalk in. And so this would just be one of those things where we move everything back all at once. And
So it's enabling us to connect to the other 38 or 40 homes at Westlake Ranch, right?
They're saying we
That's-
don't
this
need
doesn't
this.
have
They already
anything
have
to do with
water.
that.
yeah, and so we could work around that. I mean, we could put the meters right at the edge of the sidewalk. I mean,
So
that's.
going back to my original question, if we did not extend to accommodate the 4 additional houses, but we just looked to tie off these 2 dead-ending pipes, would there be a cost difference to solving that first or separately?
No, because that's what this project will do.
No, I understand.
So it'll connect the main water line.
It's like having a cul-de-sac, 2 cul-de-sacs. There's no way to get rid of the cul-de-sacs except for connect them. So you have to connect these 2 dead-end lines.
And this is all being funded through the utility fund, which we.
Troy, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a request by the city of Keller to get the Westlake residents off the city of Keller system. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
we've met with Keller several times on this.
Is that a written request?
It was just in a meeting. They preferred those. I may have an email stating that, but I'd have to go back and look. But they have requested that those residents be.
But it's
pulled
not
off.
a requirement.
It's not a requirement, no.
How urgent is this, Troy? How urgent is it? Because it seems to me that when you're making the sidewalks, you're going to have to move those water meters back anyway, so just kind of keeping the sidewalks separate from the water line itself. How urgent is the water line project?
I mean, it's as urgent. It's not urgent. We'll continue to flush and continue to spend staff time testing that water. Certainly, we'll do that. But I wouldn't say it's an urgent matter that's must do by state requirements or anything like that.
Do you have a schematic that kind of visually shows where these 2 dead-end pipes are versus where these 4 houses are that are going to be connected to the water?
I mean, I have schematic drawings that were put in the bid documents. I could bring those back to the council on the 5th, certainly.
Sure, why don't we do that? Why don't we bring this back on the 5th?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could visually help clarify
Sure.
this, that would be
Absolutely.
very helpful.
Okay.
And then on the map, also put down potential new developments. That would be helpful, because if we waited, we might have more opportunities to find creative ways to solve this over time.
Yeah, we'll label everything around it, the Westlake Keller boundary and where everything's at and
Okay.
whatnot. So certainly can do that.
Troy, what I am understanding is there are 2 dead ends, and the 4 houses are the ones that are at the dead ends. So when we make that water line, it connects those 4 houses and connects the 2 lines. Am I understanding correctly?
That is correct.
Thank you. So 4 houses is exactly where the connection will be going when we connect the 2 dead ends.
Yes, right across the street is where the water line will actually sit.
That's what I understood. So
Okay.
it's the same. It's the same thing. It's not like you're doing the 4 houses separately or connecting the 2 separately. It's the same exact location of both.
Yes, the water line connection, yeah, is directly across the street.
Thank you.
Troy, just question for my education. You said easement for the sidewalks. You've talked to the residents. What if a resident holds out on that?
We will have to either put it on pause, or it'll be up to the council to take action. Jared, and what would be the corrective action on that? Because it's an access easement.
Okay.
It's not taking property. It's just giving us access to put a public sidewalk on their property.
My understanding is that the actual residences have been okay with this project to now. Can you confirm if that's true or not?
All the residents in the Hillwood owns the property on the corner of Aspen and Pearson. Everybody's on board. We're just trying to get all the documents signed.
Okay.
And we have one resident that we've met with him several times, seemed to be on board with it, but we're just struggling trying to get the documents signed.
Okay.
All the other residents have signed off on it.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Well, do we move this forward until that resident signs? Because if we talk about it next week, the next meeting, and that resident still isn't signed, then we can't move forward, correct?
So we're talking about two different projects. So the water line is a project in itself, and then we have not, we have gotten the bid documents ready for the sidewalk, but we haven't put it out to bid until we get all the residents on board.
But they're both right-of-way issues, aren't they? Because you're going to need a right-of-way for the water line.
No, we
No?
do not need a right-of-way for the water.
That's
line.
all.
You just need a right-of-way for the sidewalk?
Yeah.
We need an easement.
An easement.
An access easement, a pedestrian access easement for the
Okay.
sidewalk. So we haven't moved that project forward until we get all the documents squared away.
And you said it wasn't that urgent. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being urgent, what would you rate the sewer or the water line?
The water
issue?
line, probably a 6.
6. Okay, thank you.
6-3.
6.5.
So we're going to push the C to December 5th, come back.
So my understanding is we'll come back on the 5th
Yeah.
with drawings that'll indicate development around the water line,
Exactly.
location.
Just to visually understand what
Yes.
you're tying together, and then, why this makes sense. To see as Jared said, there's a request by Keller to do this. We'd like
Right.
to see that.
Certainly.
And then what just we're paying to flush the pipes.
Okay.
Ballpark.
Certainly.
That'd be really
There's
helpful.
some cost.
We can do it.
It's a big project. It's $96,000.
Right.
And,
Certainly.
I think just behoove us to just
So on consent agenda, A, B's coming back. C is the server equipment. Are we wanting that to come back on the 5th, or are we going to be able to do something tonight?
I think we can vote on that.
Okay, so for A and C, for the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve? Can I first?
Yeah, I'll make it first.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, no opposed. Motion carries. Okay, item number 12, reports. Fourth quarter financial investment report. Are we doing any report for this at all, or no? Is there a report for this, presentation or anything?
No.
Any questions?
Yes.
All right, what's your questions?
I could do the walk first.
Yes,
Aye. Okay, so this is a requirement, right, each quarter that this be presented to council. Is that correct?
It's required by law under PFIA, the
Okay.
Public Funds Investment Act. Yes, sir.
I think one of the questions, so when we went through this budget process just recently, I think, we looked at general fund balance, and I think it was somewhere around 36 million in cash beginning fund balance. Can you just talk about it versus, I think we're showing here that we actually have about 46.2 million in cash. So obviously some of this is restricted or earmarked, but can you just talk about that, please?
Sure. A little bit off the cuff. I can do more research to kind of back into numbers.
Okay.
But a lot of what we show in budget, again, it's not actual, so it's an estimate at a particular point in time. And so some of it could be dependent upon when the payables actually come in. So for instance, there are payables that we have in FY23, so cash hits FY23. The expenditure is still recorded in FY22, so that's part of cash. But it can also be that just things didn't come to fruition. There was a plan in the budget that we were going to spend whatever these expenditures were, projects, whatever, and then they just didn't happen. Or timing. We've had a couple of issues where vendors said, we're going to have this by 9:30, and then it didn't arrive. And even though it was in the budget and that was our plan, when we actually receive the good or service is when we record it in our fiscal year. So that can affect some of that too.
So I went back to the investment policy that I believe we had to adopt as a council
Yes,
each
sir.
year,
Yes,
and
sir.
that was part of the budget that we all
Yes, sir.
approved, mostly approved. And so there's a couple of objectives and strategies, and I know we've talked a little bit about this previously, but there's elements of safety of principle, liquidity, diversification, yield. I mean, I'm assuming these are upstanding financial institutions, so safety of principle, I'm sure is fine. What are we invested in? Because I couldn't quite tell. There's a yield here.
We are not.
So it sits in cash. It's interest-bearing bank accounts?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we have an agreement with our First Financial Bank that I'm not sure if I can speak to the agreement. I'm sure I can. They meet tax pool rates, and so that is considered an investment piece. But our policy, I will say, is outdated, and I have reached out to Valley View, our vendor or potential vendor, to have them revise the investment language in that policy to be compliant with PFIA, because like I said, it's...
So the one we adopted, we're not even sure if that is fully compliant.
Oh, it's...
It's definitely not. Okay.
No, sir. And I did mention in a conversation months and months ago that this is something that I wanted to come back to, but we just needed to kind of push the ball forward. And so we just have these First Financial bank accounts, and that is all we are invested in.
Okay. So obviously one of the criteria is diversification, and
Yes, sir.
we have about 46 million or so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, at First Financial, does that qualify as diversification?
No, sir, it does not.
Okay. On the yield, we
I mean,
set ourselves. No, I mean
we have $100 at tax pool. Like,
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't consider that, in my opinion, diversification.
Do you know
Okay.
how long that 46 million has been in that institution?
The bulk of our money and the lack of diversification has been that way for years and years.
Well, do we have?
Like a decade?
I have not traced it back. I just know it's been that way for quite some
Long
time.
time.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, we've seen Lehman Brothers go down. As First Financial went down, are we at risk with this money?
We do have collateral. We get collateral reports every month. So I would say that we have that, and of course FDIC, which is
But that's only up to 250.
Right.
But do
Um,
you check bank ratings and stuff? I mean, do you do that on a quarterly or annual basis?
When you say ratings, sir?
IDC ratings and stuff, is it how banks get rated?
I do not, no, sir.
One of the things we set as a target on the yield is hitting the 180-day U.S. T-bill rate. So here, it looks
Yes, sir.
like at the end of September, the 6-month rate was about 3.6%.
Yes, sir.
But we were hitting about 2.2%. So are we undershooting our own
Oh, for sure.
yield? Okay.
And I list benchmarks just because those are the basics that most look to on what can be potentially earned. And so that's just kind of a comparison note
And
for
Amber,
you.
we know you're just a messenger, so thank you very much.
Yes,
And
sir.
and thank you for presenting
But
it.
this is important to me. This is
It's important to us.
This is a way to kind of slowly move the needle in the right direction and
Absolutely.
and have safety over our funds for sure. But then also we could be earning. I mean, it's government. It's not huge interest rates, but we could be earning more than we are. And
But on that money, it's substantial, it's material.
it can add
I
up,
mean,
right?
interest
Yes,
rates
sir.
are high, and we're not taking advantage
I mean, we
of
could
it.
have done tips, which earned like 8.5%.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not sure if TIPS is in PFIA. I'd have to look that up. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize
it's
the
Treasury
acronym.
inflation adjusted. And
Okay.
they've earned 8.5% last
Right,
year.
So what you're saying is just to summarize, we're outdated, we're non-compliant, and we don't have diversification.
Check, check, check.
And it's been that way for 8-10 years.
Yes, sir.
I mean, does this not support?
I don't. Again, I don't know how
Okay,
many years.
a long time.
Yes, sir.
But does this not support the notion of a finance committee, like helping work through these issues? Like, here's another one. Okay, on our, this is, again, we adopted this as a council. Authorized financial dealers and institutions. We had one presented during our last meeting, and we will have a new one. When will Valley View come to present?
I had slated it for tonight.
I know.
Yes, sir. So whenever the council is ready, we were going to perhaps, if we did have an investment committee or a finance committee,
You
talk
also
about.
help putting that together.
I'm
Well,
sorry, sir.
so one of the requirements is we have to have an annual provision of an audited financial statement. I don't know if we had that on Hilltop. We have to have a proof of certification by the NASD, which I assume is now FINRA, because that's how dated this is. Proof of current registration with the Texas Security Commission and a completion of the town broker dealer questionnaire. Do we have one?
These are all, I'm not sure off the cuff.
Okay.
These are all things that I certainly want to put in place.
I look forward to helping you.
Okay.
That's all the questions I had. It's just a report anyway, so I think it's,
This is just, complying with law and making sure that you're aware of what we currently have. It's also part of audit that they look for these. And
so I know it's not on the agenda, but because you're delivering this report, we're not, technically we have to accept the report. I think I could tell just from your signature block at the back, we were probably not in compliance, just given the way it was worded. But assuming Valley View or whomever council elects to hire to help us with this investment policy,
yes, sir.
Will they be able to
So-
bring our investment policy up to actual Texas required standards?
Indeed, they will.
Okay.
So my objective with getting an investment financial advisor is not only to have beefed up investment reports than I just put together, and certainly good economic disclosures to you about how things are going, but also making recommendations to us on investment vehicles that fit within PFIA and our own policy, because the policy can be even further restricted, of course. So to do those things, and also to help us with our banking RFP, which is required every 5 years, to help us with a cash management program, because we don't have that in place, to look at our trends year over year, and to look at when we have bulk revenues coming in, and then when we need to use them for capital projects and for major expenditures, and then kind of ladder out our investments based on when we need cash. All of those things I can do, but I have no time to do those things, and they're very important. So I'm fairly passionate about getting this in place.
Okay.
Thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
caring so much.
Well,
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break here. So we've been going for like 2.5 hours on this already. And then we'll make it 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and finish out the last few items. All right?
Awesome.
Thanks.